Hey everyone, this is your friend Draco Questy. Welcome back to Loomian Legacy, where today I thought of sharing something very special for you guys. Now up to this point, we've been able to reach up to 500 subscribers, and I want to thank you all so much for your help. Like, I could not have done this without you guys. Thank you so much for your cooperation. It really means a lot to me. Now I was thinking, to celebrate this occasion, I thought of sharing with you guys another one of my hobbies that I do other than making these videos and doing gaming in general. And that, my friends, is drawing. That's right, I can actually draw pictures. In fact, that's how my logo came into being. I first drawn it on paper, then afterwards draw it on digital. It's definitely a lot of work, and I've got to say, it's definitely a milestone for me back then. And I thought, maybe I can use some of that opportunity to benefit Loomian Legacy a little bit. And that, my friends, is drawing some fan-made pictures for Soulburst Loomians. That's right, I've drawn pictures for potential Soulburst Loomians, and I was thinking, what about the starters? Wouldn't it be cool if they get Soulburst evolutions? And that's what I've done. I've drawn some Soulburst evolutions for them, as well as one bonus Loomian that I'll share with you guys at the end of the video. But before we jump into that, there is one more thing that I want to mention here in Jolly Village, and that has to deal with this area right here. Now you may have noticed I have Sentinel with me right now, and there's actually a reason for that. Basically, in here, there are holiday versions of the Gar Golem. And yes, I say versions, and that's because there are 4 of them. So up here we have Sentinel, our first Gar Golem, which again looks really cool. But now imagine that in Christmas form. This is Grendel, the original frozen holiday version of Gar Golem. And again, like, the frozen part looks really cool, and also the chains that are around him. And look at this! He even has a treasure box on his back. Really cool indeed. Then next up we have the attack version. This is Grenis, the attack Gar Golem. And wow, this looks a lot like the Grim Reaper. Like, it even has the sickle, and wow, definitely looks cool. Like, look at the model. And then next up we have Granny, my defense Gar Golem, and I've got to say, he definitely looks a lot jolly, like the beard, the snow, and even the coat. This is a really well done model, and look at that, it has a little flame on the back. And then finally, we have Grenner, my speed Gar Golem, and I've got to say, this version looks terrifying, like the wings are flames, and is it wearing a bell? Like, that's definitely something. Now, there's actually a reason why I have 4 of them in one party, and that's because of this key item, in particular, the Magic Chisel. Now, you may have noticed the Magic Chisel, it works on the Gar Golem. It changes their shape, as you can see what I'm doing to Sentinel up here. And he can change into all 4 variants, the normal, the attack, the defense, and the speed. However, if we use this on these versions, it won't have any effect. So basically, all of these versions you need to encounter in the wild. And that, my friends, I leave to the challenge called the Grand Gar Golem Challenge, to see if you can all catch all variants of the Gar Golem here in the Jolly Village. Alright, now that I have that on my chest, on to the Soulburst Loomians, starting with none other than the starters. Let's go ahead and check things off with Bernie, but we're not doing that here. We're doing it in the main adventure. I'll meet you guys there. But before we jump into it, here's a huge disclaimer warning. What you're about to see is all just fan-made, it's not meant to be taken seriously. Llama Train Studios wasn't part of this. This is all my own artwork. It's just for inspiration, maybe for Llama Train Studios themselves to use if they ever needed it. Alright, now that I've got that out of my chest, let's start things off with the first starter. Now with a sword in one hand and a shield in another, this noble Loomian will stop at nothing until it protects the people that it loves, even in its burning rage. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Flame Guard Seer Knight. Now to make this model, I've used the basic model for Seer Knight right here, and I've added a few more Knight elements to it. We have the face guard, we have the helmet, and of course, we have the sword and the shield. Now that sword and shield are not just normal weapons, that's actually part of the Seer Knight's body. Basically, that's hardened fur. This I've done a little bit of research on, and if we look at its pre-evolution reburn, we've discovered that it can harden its fur. Basically, it can harden its fur to create this armor. So I thought of taking that element step further and give it the ability to harden at will. And also, along with that, I've used inspiration from Blaziken, a Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, and when it does, it has those long strands of fur that basically spew out like flame, and I thought of using that to create the sword and the shield. Pretty cool if I do say so myself. And also, before I forget, its soul move is known as Flame Sword. This is a melee type move that will do 120 damage, and it has a small chance to burn the opponents. This is definitely a lot to take in, but that, my friends, is Flame Guard Seer Knight. Beware when this Loomian emerges from the oceans. It will shine its light so bright that people will stand there blind from its presence. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Abyssal Luminami. Now this version is actually really tricky to make because, believe it or not, Luminami is actually based on a multitude of creatures. Like, there's some of lizards, some of fish, some of amphibians, obviously. Whereas the others, they're actually based on a certain creature, like the Seer Knight's based on a rabbit, the Griffin for the Valkyrie. I think you get the premises. However, I've done a little bit of research on the wiki, and I've discovered that the Luminami is actually based off of the creature of the Black Lagoon, basically a horror novel. And I thought, maybe I can take this opportunity and inspire it from another creature of myth and legend, and that will be the Loch Ness Monster. That is why I've given the Luminami a elongated neck, definitely to show off that light. It's definitely something, I'm not gonna lie. And also along with that, it has the soul move called Flash Flood, which is a range type move this time, and it does the same amount of points compared with the Flame Sword, only this time it will leave their opponents dazed, which is a small chance to happen. Leaping from tree to tree, this Loomian watches its adversaries patiently until it finds the right moment to strike them head on. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Marshall Tatap. Now this one's actually the more trickiest of the bundle because, as you can see, the Tatap is like already well detailed. There's not a lot to add on. However, I thought of rearranging its leaves a little bit and also give its tail a bit more length, give it a bit more recognition, and along with that, I've added a blade at the end of the staff, and yeah, you might be wondering, why is part of it purple? Well, I'll explain that in a moment. Its Soulburst move is Tree Kwando. It does the same amount of damage as all the others, and this is a melee type move. And also along with that, it has a small chance of poisoning their enemies. Remember what I said about the purple on the end of the blade? Well, that's a poison-filled blade. Definitely deadly, you do not want to get stabbed by that. From the heavens above, a Loomian descends. Its light so bright that people say when they see it, it's like looking into the midday sun. People cannot look upon it without their eyes becoming blind. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Archangel Valkyrie. Now this Loomian's actually really fun to do because already Valkyrie looks really cool. It's basically a griffin that's fully armored. Definitely cool indeed. So I thought of giving it a bit more extra armor by giving it a chest plate as well as some bracelets and some extra jewelry. And also along with that, design wise, I want this thing to look a little bit like a bow. And that's actually important because its sole move is a ranged type move, and that will be Heavenly Ray. It does the same amount of damage, and it has a small chance of dazing their opponents. Definitely cool indeed. Like, I really love the design. Hopefully you guys do as well. In the darkness of night, in the darkest shadows, this Loomian waits for its moment to strike its prey down and bring it back into the shadows from whence it came. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Vampire Vesperado. Now this, other than the cape, there's really not much to describe it other than that it's a Vesperado all spiced up and given it a few extra details. However, there is something that I want to mention concerning of that cape. So basically that cape, I've gotten a little bit of inspiration from Monster Hunter, more specifically Gar Golem. Basically, those wings I've seen on Gar Golem, they do give like a very eerie look, definitely something for a creature of the night. So I thought of doing that for Vesperado, giving it that elongated cape, capable of covering itself, hidden from the shadows and such. Definitely cool indeed. And also, its Soulburst move, I've called it Vampire Bite, and it does the same amount of damage. This is a melee type move, and it has the ability to paralyze or potentially poison its enemies. Basically, I'll leave that with you guys to debate. And also, here's a disclaimer, that's not meant to be a spirit type move, that's meant to be a dark type move. Basically, all the moves that I've used are based off of the starter's first elemental power, but I'll get to that later. Upon the mountaintops, this king watches over its people, even as a defender against any adversity. If ever there was someone or something disturbing their peace, this king will come down and strike them back, even in its hard might. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Mountain King Himber. Now this one's also a special case because, much like the Seer Knight, this is inspired by Pokemon again, only this time is the Mega Evolution for Swampert, basically where Swampert becomes a bit extra buff. I thought of doing that same thing with Himber, basically give him a bit more muscle, also giving him a bit more armor like the shoulder blades, and also elongating its horns, giving it a bit more of a mountain goat appearance. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of differences. Maybe there's the beard, like the beard became a bit more longer, it became a bit more bigger, more shaggier. But again, it's basically a Himber, all buffed up and ready for battle. Its Soulburst move is known as Avalanche, and it does the same amount of damage, 120 DP, and it has a small chance of freezing their opponents. Basically, it gives them the freezing ailment. People fear this Loomian because it ties with the storm. But now the Loomian becomes the storm. With its newfound power, it will bring the storm along with it, wielding its power, its might, its lightning. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Stormbound Sway Lung. Now this one's actually pretty straightforward. It's basically Sway Lung becoming more like Zeus, wielding the power of the lightning, even the storm itself. I also thought of giving it a bit more extra floof, giving it that cloud impression, and also along with that, I thought of giving it those lightning bolts at the tips of its whiskers, giving it a bit more of a lightning vibe to it, and also add a few more details to the horns, as well as elongated the ears. Basically, there's not much explanation there. It's basically a Sway Lung, just with a bit of extra clouds. Its soul move is known as Heaven's Rage, dealing with the same amount of points, 120 DP, and this is a ranged type move, and it has a small chance to paralyze their opponents. Definitely powerful indeed. I do not want to mess with this Loomian. Well, there you guys have it. Those are all the starter Loomians, all on one piece of paper, believe it or not. And that's what I think what they'll look like if they were to Soulburst. Now, do you guys like them? Do you guys hate them? Are there a few changes that you want to make? Let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your critical thinking. However, here's a huge disclaimer. Just because I made these doesn't mean they're going to happen. This is Llama Train Studios' game, not my own. But Llama Train Studios can use them if they want to, because again, this is a fan-made project, all inspired for their game, and their game alone, so it's free for them to use. However, I've just realized something. If they were to bring those Soulburst versions here in the game, where will the raids be? Well, for that, I thought of a few places, and that is all here in Midas Town. Like, they could go for the dig site, like whether in the cave or beside the cave right over there, or perchance close to the laboratory, like right here next to the log, or maybe right here, maybe behind the house, or maybe right at our house, like around here, perhaps, or maybe here. Again, that's up for Llama Train Studios to make, just in case they ever want to do that in the future. Just a few ideas for them. But that'll be it. Or is it? If you guys remember correctly, I did mention that we've done one more Loomian for Soulburst. So with that in mind, let's do our bonus Loomian. Yep, I think you all know what I'm thinking. Needless to say, I really love the Dragodine, like the looks, the models, the aesthetics, and even the fact that they introduced us to the raids. They have won a special place in my heart, so I thought of giving them the same treatment as I've done the starters. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Egg Shower Dragodine. Now this version is actually the original version, like the very first Dragodine model that they have, where it's basically purple, and also has the original egg look. But you can tell how much has been put into the Dragodine. There's all the clouds, the foliage that's placed all around it, on the jaw, the wings, the back, the neck, and the tail, and even its mane has a few extra details, like extra spikes and even an egg symbol on its chest. There is definitely a lot for me to explain here. So yes, as you can see, a bit more work has been put into this, like on its tail and on its arms, on its wings even, and even how it moves on the corner. There is definitely a lot to take in, so I'll basically shorten things out, just a few extra details. So as you can see on the tail, it has these spikes, almost like a Raffalo's tail, and the reason why is because if you look closely at a Dragodine on its tail, it has these really long spikes near the end. So I thought of giving that same treatment on the tail, giving it those spikes almost like a Stegosaur, or again, Raffalo's from Monster Hunter. And also along with that, I thought of giving it a little bit small details of rabbit ears on its frill. And I thought of doing that because on the icon for the egg showers, they have these little rabbit ears. So I thought of implying that to the Dragodine, just to show that this is the cause of the weather. Basically a little symbol, if you know what I mean. But again, there's not a whole lot of details there. It's just a really buffed up Dragodine. But it still looks cool, like all the extra details. At least it's cool in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Oh, one more thing. Concerning of its Soulburst move, I thought of giving it Egg Hurricane. This is a dark type move, and it does 150 damage points. And I thought of giving it the ability Dazed, but since I've actually seen a few Soulburst in action, I thought of giving it the ability to lob 3 or 5 eggs at the opponent. Basically, it will do the egg lob, which, if I'm not mistaken, the Dorogo actually knows egg lob. Basically, it does the same amount of damage to the opponent, with the same move stats, if you know what I mean. Well, there you guys have it. Those are all the Soulburst versions that I've made for Llama Train Studios to use. Now again, these are not 100% guarantee, but Llama Train Studios can use them if they want to. So that'll be it for this episode concerning of Loomian Legacy. Now, if you enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like, and consider joining our Adventure Clan by subscribing. And also, let me know in the comments if you guys want to see me do this a bit more, concerning of doing drawings and such. Like, not only for Loomian Legacy, but maybe for Sharkbite 2, or maybe for Book of Monsters. Like, there's still a lot of Roblox games out there that I can play, and I could do some fan art for them too. Again, let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you guys again soon. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, feel free to join me on our next adventure. Till then, this is Gar Golem. See you later!